Boom. All right. Welcome to, I suppose this is the first annual Infinite Masterclass. And it's not even annual, first weekly masterclass. So if you're joining me on IG, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you're joining me today, welcome. I'm glad to have you. I'm excited to be in a position to empower you today with everything about gamification. And before we begin, I just would like to shout out a few people on my team that are with me here today, and some that are not. Because if it wasn't for my team at Infinite, I wouldn't even be here today with you guys and with you being able to teach gamification. I just want to shout out my team. I want to shout out to all the warriors that I've mentored in my life, because that is truly what motivates me to be with you here today to talk about motivation and gamification. So I just want to take a moment to thank all of you, because if it wasn't for you, I would not be here right now. So, all right, don't want to get too emotional. We're here to have fun. We're here to learn, and we're here to take action. This masterclass is all about action. As they say, actions speak louder than words. So be prepared to get your pen and paper, get your typing skills in, because we are going to apply what you learn here today live. That's the best way to learn, in my opinion. We can get all this theory and all these ideas and get really excited about it, but until knowledge becomes power, it's useless. And the only way to turn knowledge into power is with action. So let's begin. Are you ready to learn how to use gamification to improve your energy, productivity, clarity, and confidence? Who's excited? Are you ready? Now, why energy, productivity, clarity, and confidence? Well, first of all, energy, everything that we do requires energy, right? If we don't have the energy to do anything, we're not going to do it. We're going to procrastinate and we're going to do nothing. Of course, productivity can apply to every aspect. As a creator, it's creating things. As someone who wants to learn, that's being productive with learning. It's not just work, right? Productivity can go across every aspect of action. And of course, clarity, if the vision of the future is not clear, if there's a lot of confusion, a lot of distractions in the way of making progress, how are you going to make progress, right? And that's where clarity comes in. And of course, confidence. Competency breeds confidence. The more competent you are at something, the more confident you become. So who is excited? Put it in the chat. Let me know if you're excited. Give me a hell yeah in the chat if you are hype for this gamification masterclass. Same thing on IG as well. Give me a hell yeah. Stone Cold Steve Austin. There we go. Well, the question you might be asking yourself is, what is gamification? I'm going to give it to you in one sentence. Gamification is a combination of game design, game dynamics, motivational psychology, behavioral economics, user experience, user interface, neurobiology, technology platforms, and business systems. Quite simply, gamification is not as simple as you think. What most people think gamification is simply just game design, putting points and badges and basically taking elements from games and putting that into either the real world or other products and other services. It is much deeper than that. It's a very complex subject, but today I'm going to be breaking down these complex principles of gaming or should I say gamification, and make them so simple that you can apply it immediately into your life. That's my goal for you here today in this gamification masterclass, is to truly bridge that gap, expand your awareness, and take action with the information and the knowledge that you learn here today. So again, if you somehow found your way here, you might be asking, why am I here? Well, primarily to learn how to incorporate gaming elements and how it can unlock intrinsic motivation, drive you to take action and achieve outstanding results so that you can regain excitement about your health, your career, personal relationships, and anything that you want to improve and expand yourself in. You're probably here because you want to discover how gamification can facilitate behavior change and help you reach your goals, whether it's meeting sales targets if you're a business owner, sticking to exercise routines if you're trying to improve your health and fitness, or just achieving personal milestones either in gaming or in life. Gamification can truly provide you with the motivation and the structure you need to succeed. Lastly, you're probably here to experience a more structured and engaging learning journey that applies the healthy lifestyle habits, fitness education, personal development, basically to embrace having an interactive experience to make learning more enjoyable. Because, I mean, we've all been through school. We definitely have had those teachers, those professors, and those learning experiences that were dull and that were very boring. And you probably don't even remember half the things you learned, right? So today, I hope to be that good professor, that one teacher that you'll always remember about this experience that you had learning about gamification and how you started to apply it in your life and that it changed your life. Now, just a little bit about me. Again, this is going to be all about gamification. I just wanted to give a little brief introduction to myself. I'm Chambers, Walt Chambers. I'm the founder, lead designer, and master transformation specialist we call Wizards at Infinite. I'm a 3-time champion coach across 3 sports in my 10+ year mentorship and coaching and training career. I'm a certified master pain-free performance specialist, master trainer, metabolic nutritionist, strength and conditioning coach, mental performance mastery coach, and much more things. I was fortunately able to be featured in Yahoo Finance and other major publications. And I've been an RPG gamer for over 25+ years. So if you are wondering, is this guy a gamer? Yes, I will be and always will be for the rest of my life. Now, there's 3 stories that I want to share with all of you in discovering gamification in my life. On the right, I'm holding an N64 controller. Incredible gaming console. I had so many games on it, and I was 100% hooked between the ages of I think I was either 6 or 7 when I started playing N64. But there was an experience that I had as a kid where my dad came to me and offered me a proposition. He said, Walt, if you get straight A's in school, and I was around 1st grade, 2nd grade at the time, I'll give you whatever you want. And the gamer in me said, I want a new video game. That's all I want. I just want to play more games. That's it. So what I did after that is one thing. I asked my teacher, what do I have to do to get straight A's? And my teacher said, you have to listen, pay attention. You have to take notes. You have to do the homework. And you have to score high enough to get an A for all of the assignments in the quizzes and the tests. So that's exactly what I did. And in that process, I had straight A's. Throughout my majority, I'd say 95% of my whole entire educational career up till college before I became a young and wild young teen. But the 3 takeaways that I want to have from that story is I simply gamified the process of learning. And gamification can be used to achieve any goal using extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. The difference between extrinsic and intrinsic is the process. It comes from inside of you. It's really aligning with a higher level or higher purpose. Extrinsic is the result. It's the outcome that you're looking for. It's the shiny star in the sky. Gamification can also make dull, boring, or tedious experiences more meaningful and fulfilling. What was meaningful to me is knowing when I got my test back, and I had 100. Because I knew that I would be able to be one step closer to getting that new game that I wanted to play. That's the power of gamification. I've made learning meaningful. Lastly, gamification, when designed correctly, can create long-term growth and sustainable success. That's a fact. Because I am living proof, and the warriors that I've been able to coach and mentor in my life are also a shining example. The second story here is my fitness struggle. On the left here, this is the moment where I decided to change my life. I was broken mentally. I wasn't achieving anything in my life. I was going down a bad path, very, very bad path with a very bad future, and I was destroying all of my potential. It wasn't until I looked in the mirror and I decided that I want to change. And that's the power of change. It really is that moment when you're looking in the mirror and it's just you and you. And you look yourself in the eye. You really just look at the reality, the truth of where you are in life. That's the moment that can truly change your life. But I struggled with fitness. I was not always fit in my life. I struggled with nutrition. I struggled with mental health. I struggled with a lot of things. But it was this experience that paved the way to the opportunity of gamification yet again in my life. And there's 3 takeaways from the story. Gamification can be used as a feedback mechanism to boost your self-awareness. Looking at myself in the mirror, that was that feedback mechanism. I saw who I was. I started to look deeper into who I was on the inside. And that feedback can really inspire you to take action. Gamification can inspire you to walk down the path of self-mastery and live a higher purpose. I not only wanted to help myself when it comes to my fitness struggles, my fitness problems, but I wanted to help other people as well. This goal turned way more selfless than selfish. Lastly, gamification can transform fear, stress, anxiety into courage, strength, and resiliency, which I'm sure everyone here in this masterclass can use a little bit more of that. Lastly, for my gaming peeps, the Elder Scrolls. When I played the Elder Scrolls 4, something unlocked inside me. Now, if you don't know what the Elder Scrolls is, it's something called a role-playing game or an RPG made by Bethesda Studios. And basically, you are the hero. You are the main protagonist in the story. And the one gaming mechanic that was built into the Elder Scrolls is a system, a progression system that basically challenged you to use skills in order to improve it. For example, in order for you to improve your skill with swordsmanship with a one hand, you have to use one-handed swords. In order to improve your jumping abilities, you actually had to jump in the game. And this concept completely changed everything for me because I realized that it's no different than real life. Real life is literally exactly the same. In order to improve our skills, we have to use these skills and we have to develop competency into it. But the 3 takeaways from my Elder Scrolls experience into gamification is if there aren't any clear objectives, clear goals, or clear challenges, you won't be able to create long-term progress, plain and simple. You'll always just get to that next step, from point A to point B to C to D, so on and so forth, but you won't be able to get to Z, and so on and so forth. Gamification is if without visible feedback, like my story before, on your progress, how are you going to stay motivated, right? Like it's like going to the gym and then not seeing any progress in the mirror on the scale with your weights, and how you feel when you wake up in the morning, right? And lastly, without gamification, there is no true personalization, customization, which, you have to have the right level of challenge in order for you to continue and stay motivated, right? If the challenge is too easy, you're just going to be like, this is too easy. I don't want to do this anymore. And then if it's too hard, you're gonna be like, oh, this is too hard. I don't want to do this anymore. So those are 3 gamification experiences in my life that paved the way to this conversation today. So you're likely here because you have tried online programs, group classes, personal trainers, and home workout equipment just to hit a plateau or lose progress over time. Maybe you're here because you tried a mobile fitness app that said, hey, this is for gamers, or this is where it uses gamification just to basically get little to no results. Or maybe you tried motivating yourself to learn new things, change your habits, and challenge yourself just to end up quitting. Just like a lot of people who started January 1st goals. Maybe that's you. But you're likely here because you want to be able to control your motivation better so you can achieve more and accomplish more. You're probably here because you want to make health and fitness more fun, more rewarding, without dull or uninspiring strategies. And you probably want to improve your energy, your productivity, your courage, your confidence, and your long-term sustainability. Because what's the point of putting all your energy, all your time, your precious, precious time that you don't get back into something that you just lose progress over time? It becomes pointless. But if you're here, you might be in the wrong place if you're not a high achiever, a business owner, a gamer, or just you're not in a performance-based position. You're also probably in the wrong place if you're not open to learning, challenging your current beliefs, or you're just not willing to put into work or be coachable. Knowledge is power only if you use it. And the things that I'm going to be sharing with you today are going to require work and are going to require an open mind, are going to require you to step out of your comfort zone in order to make the change that you want in your life. Today, we're going to be covering what is gamification, how does it work, what are the common misconceptions of gamification, how does gamification affect motivation, what are the 8 motivational core drives built into gamification? Highlight that part. What are some actionable gamification mechanics and elements? And lastly, how can gamification be used to achieve infinite health, growth, and achievement? Today, by the way, is just the tip of the iceberg. Like I mentioned in the very, very beginning, gamification is a very complex subject. However, in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to share as much as I can with you about gamification that can hopefully inspire you to take massive, massive action in the world of gamification so that you can get a deeper understanding of what motivation is and what drives motivation so you can better control it all by the end of today. Ooh, the pressure. Can I do it? Of course I can. Now, you might be asking yourself, does this stuff work? Well, as you can see here on the right, it does. It's not just the physical change when you implement gamification. It's so many other things. This is Barbarian Warrior May, one of our rock stars. I'm sure she's going to love this. She loves getting shouted out because of her incredible progress. She went from 220 to 170 in 8 months. She lost on average between 2.5 to 3 pounds every single week just by implementing gamification into her life. Before that, she was struggling, working out 5 days a week, not seeing results. She was also seeing a nutritionist and a doctor, and they still were not able to help her. It wasn't until she started implementing gamification into her life where she now is sitting at 170 pounds, happy, completely reinvigorated as a human being. She now can play with her daughter without getting winded, and she can do things and fit in new types of clothes that she's never been able to fit in, and just feel her absolute best underneath her skin. She also has improved her sleep, her mindfulness, her lifestyle, and her relationship with food, which is a struggle for a lot of people. So if you're asking yourself, does this stuff work? Yes, gamification does work. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Introductions are over. Is everybody ready to really dive in to the world of gamification? Give me another hell yeah in the chat if you're ready. I'm checking out the chat now, so apologies. Yes, Chris, good old days. N64 days, man. I started off on the NES playing Mario, or at least sucking at Mario, dying all the time. But yeah, good times, good times. Hell yeah, hell yeah. Altered Beast, nice. Damn, I didn't play that. I'm gonna have to look that up after this. Sega Genesis. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I didn't own that. I had to go to my my neighbor's house for Sega and play Sonic, but all right. So here's my signature process to teach you. I guess you could say like the first introduction, the first level of understanding what gamification is. So step one is gamification physiology. So basically, how does gamification affect the human body and how it functions consciously as well as unconsciously? So what you are aware of and what you're unaware of. Step two is gamification psychology. Basically, what are these underlying psychological forces that are going on that are influencing your behavior, especially when it comes to your action and your motivation? The last step is finally gamification mechanics and elements, basically learning the rules and the strategies of designing an effective and engaging experience when it comes to generating the motivation that you want to generate, as well as understanding all these little kind of rules and strategies to implement into your day-to-day life. So let's jump straight into it. Like I said, this is going to be all about action today. So it's going to be you guys in the chat really putting your 2 cents in, and basically applying what I'm going to be teaching you on each one of these steps. So get ready and let's dive in. Ooh. Gamification physiology all starts with dopamine. Basically, what dopamine is basically a new neurotransmitter in our central nervous system that's associated with motivation and pleasure. Everything that we enjoy, everything that we love starts with motivation and dopamine. Now, the secretion of dopamine plays a key role in the control of focus, attention, locomotion, learning, and working memory, which is basically everything that we are basically conscious of. If we are aware, it requires us to move our bodies, to think, to learn, and to pay attention, dopamine is involved. That's the power of this one part of our body. Now, gamification takes advantage of this by offering rewards and challenges that stimulate the brain's reward center, leading to a sense of accomplishment, satisfaction, and motivation. Everything that you enjoy doing is because of dopamine. Internally, at least. We'll get to the psychological components in a moment. But there's 3 primary attitudes that really are affected via gamification, and that's motivation, repetition, and learning. So again, motivation is just the energy for you to achieve goals, and either consciously or unconsciously. Sometimes we do things without even knowing why, which is the unconscious. And then sometimes we do things because we want an end result, which is kind of like the conscious part. Now, repetition is also a thing as well. As human beings, we are creatures of habit. Okay. So we love doing things that we have done before over and over and over again. When we release dopamine, we want to release it in the same way by doing the same thing. Dopamine doesn't release as much as it can if it's something that is way out of your scope that might not be enjoyable, which is why it's a struggle for a lot of people with their health and their fitness to get into it. They get all these endorphins, right? When they're just getting into a workout, they get excited, but then over time, they're like, hey, why is this not sticking? Well, consistency does play a part into that. If you're going to the gym once a week, you're not going to be able to really take advantage of dopamine for that repetition. Lastly, learning. So basically, learning is just really kind of behavior change, right? When you take information, whether that's from the internet, the person at the local gym, maybe your buddy, your best friend, you basically take that information, and whether or not you choose to take action with it is dependent on dopamine, right? Is there a reward for taking this action or applying this new information? So that's one big thing about learning, is that we're searching for the reward when we're learning. And that's probably why you are attending this masterclass. There's a part of you that's releasing dopamine as we speak, because there could be something in this masterclass that's going to be a reward for you. You may or may not know what that is, but it's the fact that you are learning right now. You are releasing dopamine. And that's the power of dopamine. It is constantly working unconsciously inside of our bodies. Now, you might be asking yourself, like, how do we apply this stuff? All right, cool, I get it. I knew what it kind of was. I know that it's kind of affecting things, but how do I apply it? Let's do a quick action step here. Step 1, think about your favorite food that you love to eat right now. It could be anything gluttonous, anything tasty. Type that food in the chat, and whoever gets the second response gets a special reward. Whoever gets the second response gets a reward. Chris got Islander food. Tasty. Ooh. Yo, the dub is right there. I wasn't expecting such a long response from you, Jasper. You had the dub right there. You almost missed it. Olia could have took that dub from you. Nachos. Nice. Congratulations, Jasper. You are the second person to respond with your favorite food. Your reward, you get a virtual high five, bro. Right there, you probably don't even know it, but you just released dopamine. Now, obviously, if the reward is in your mind far more valuable, you're going to release more dopamine, but this was just a little brief example of how dopamine works, right? It starts with perceiving a reward opportunity and getting anxious and restless about it until you decide to take action and you're like, I want that reward. Then you get that reward and you're like, yes. But then right when you get that reward or shortly after, you start to be like, it was okay. It's just the effectiveness wasn't quite there. But when you're really wanting something and you can't get it, that's when motivation is at its highest, because it gets you to want more. Oh, I want it now. I want this experience. I want this feeling. And that's when you start to get really, really motivated. Maybe you want to pick up your phone, start, ordering out, whatever that may be. Right. But then it's at its lowest when you're no longer anxious, when you're no longer restless, and you no longer desire that thing. That's dopamine on a very, very simple level. So a big takeaway as we wrap this up is dopamine release is simply when we achieve something, our brains release dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter in our bodies, built in every single human being, that controls motivation and pleasure. Now, again, the role of dopamine is controls focus, attention, learning, working memory, and actually much, much more. And when it comes to gamification, gamification leverages dopamine. In a way, it actually controls your dopamine. And it basically stimulates that reward part in your mind by basically controlling that sense of accomplishment and satisfaction in everything that we do, every action we take. Dopamine is involved. That's dopamine. Any questions on dopamine before we continue to step 2? Again, apologies for IG. It's just not working. All right, no questions. Now let's get to the fun stuff. The psychology aspect of gamification. This is something that if you take this seriously, it can unlock a level of awareness in your own motives, in your own behavior, that can truly transform how you're motivated and what you accomplish in life. I've been doing research on this for a very long time, both indirectly and directly, and psychology is the way forward when it comes to behavior change. Now, all that being said, let's dive in. Gamification, when it comes to motivation, is broken down into 8 motivational core drives, which motivates you to take action. Now, these motivational core drives are broken down into 2 things: black hat and white hat. Okay? Now, black hat creates a sense of loss of control. In a way, it is kind of like the negative part that kind of pushes you to take action. That risk, that thing where you might lose control of the outcome, that inspires you to take action. Then the white hat creates that sense of control, that sense of empowerment, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of I am making my own decisions and I have control of the outcome. White hat and black hat. Now, black hat sounds bad, right? But it's actually built into a lot of things. And we're going to be going over that in a moment. But if you truly want to leverage the power of gamification, it's going to be through the white hat motivational core drives. And the first white hat motivational core drive is epic meaning and calling. This taps into your sense of purpose and mission, driving users to take action towards their goals. For me, it was my second story about fitness. I had that moment where I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I not only want to help myself, I want to help other people that are struggling just like me. I aligned myself with an epic meaning and an epic calling that was above my selfish view of how I felt on the inside. That's epic meaning and calm. The second white hat motivational core drive is development and accomplishment. Basically involves making progress, developing your skills, and overcoming challenges. It's literally built into so many games, right? Now, some examples of development and accomplishment is unlocking trophies or achievements. It's basically getting this rare collection of cards, comic books, rare memorabilia. It is accomplishing something, a position at work. It can be so many things, anything that you want to accomplish, that drive to accomplish something new, something difficult, is driven by the motivational core drive of development and accomplishment. Another white hat motivation core drive. Then there's empowerment of creativity and feedback, which basically allows users to express their creativity in a way that gives you the freedom to create, the freedom to build, the freedom to approach things however way that you want. This is for the designers. This is for the people who are artists, builders, architects. That freedom to build and create something that basically doesn't exist, that power, that motivation, that's for you. And that's the motivation core drives that drives that, as well as getting constructive feedback from other people. So that's one example. So for the business owners, this is creating your business. For the gamer, this might be creating something inside the game or approaching the game however way you want. The next motivation core drive is ownership and possession. Feel free to ask any questions about each one of these motivation core drives as I go along. Ownership and possession drives individuals to accumulate wealth and acquire and customize virtual goods or services. So basically, to go back to the kind of acquiring of rare memorabilia and all these types of things, that has value, right? These rare games, these rare comic books, all these different things has value to it. And it's not just virtually, right? Even though most people will say that, you know, the currency is in the virtual world, technically, like you have a bank account, right? But like this can be also in a game, right? Acquiring coins, gold, virtual money, being able to own it and possess it, but it also applies to the physical world as well when you try to acquire something. So ownership and possession is a big, big motivation core drive for a lot of the collectors and a lot of people who want to acquire something, not just like intrinsically inside yourself, like for example, just feeling better or getting more energy and things like that, but actually physically or virtually. So that is ownership and possession, the fourth white hat core drive. And last but not least, this again, ownership and possession, and the next one, social influence and relatedness, are in the middle. So they can be kind of white hat or black hat. And I'm going to break down why and also how you can apply this in a moment. Now, social influence relatedness is plain and simple as interacting socially, really being part of a community, sharing ideas, interacting with people who have the same interests as you. You know, that's really, really big amongst the gaming community and really big amongst the business community as well, that are in the same industry or are playing the same games. This is big, but not everyone is motivated by this. There's those lone wolves, those solo players in the game of business, in the game of video games that don't want to interact with anyone. So they are not into this motivation core drive. And that is why it's kind of like in the middle, by the way, right? Ownership and possession, not too many people want to possess things. They just are minimalists. They just like having 6 things and that's it. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Same thing with social influence and relatedness. That could be a good thing or bad thing for people. Like the introverts may or may not want to interact with anyone, and the extroverts want to interact with everyone. So it's in the middle for a reason. Now, let's dive into the black hat stuff. And this is going to be really eye-opening for a lot of you. Now, scarcity and impatience, simply put, is urgency. Urgency is built into everything, especially when it comes to limited time events, limited time offers, all these types of things that add some sort of constraint. Amazon does this all the time. Heck, when PlayStation launched their console, everyone was running on the black hat, which is scarcity and impatience. You could not get one. And it motivated people to do a lot of crazy stuff. Buy a console for double and sometimes triple the amount of price. It gets people to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to check a website to see if it's available. You'd be surprised what this black hat motivation core drive can do to people when you tell someone there's only 3 left. And there's 200 people, 2,000 people, 20,000 people that want it. It gets you to really take action like this. So this is a black hat thing because that feeling of urgency means it's a feeling of loss of control, is that you might miss out on this thing. This thing might go away. You don't have control necessarily on whether or not you acquire it. So very important we point that out. The next one is unpredictability and curiosity. This is a fun one because you actually experience this all the time. In the day-to-day, in the virtual world and the real world. There's so many unpredictable things that can happen, right? There's some things that you are curious about as well, I'm sure. But it's that thing where it's like, I don't know the answer. I don't know what's going to happen. That gets you motivated. It's like watching a movie, right? Movies are literally designed around this motivation core drive. What's going to happen in the story? And it gets you to keep watching. That's what drives the motivation in movies. Unpredictability and curiosity. By design. Because if you don't know what happens next, you're like, I want to know what happens next. And maybe you're feeling that way right now. What's going to happen next? What's this action step we're going to do to apply this? Ooh, am I ready for it? Do I know enough about it? I might be messing around with this motivation core drive in that moment. Nothing to worry about. This is just an introduction. Last black hat core drive here is loss and avoidance. Essentially, it's fear, right? Something negative might happen, and it basically motivates you to take action. So for me, again, going back to my fitness story, I was about to lose my future. I, was about to lose everything that I could be if I did not decide to take action with my mental health, my physical health, my academics, my learning, all these things. That loss and avoidance of the possible future is what drove a lot of my motivation as well. And you might be wondering, is it just one thing? No. It's a combination of some or all of these motivation core drives. Depending on the thing that you're doing, that's going to affect what is going to fuel you to take action, right? It really depends on who you are on a deep inner level and what you desire the most. That's going to affect which one of these 8 core drives are going to fuel you in this moment. And if you are aware of these 8 core drives, you are going to have so much more power over what motivates you, what doesn't, and how to actually access motivation, which is the big thing. How do you generate it? How do you keep it going? How do you apply motivation to the areas that you're unmotivated in? It starts with understanding what you may or may not be aware of that are happening underneath the surface. And that's why psychology is very, very deep. But again, this is just a brief introduction to everything. Hello, Tierra, welcome. If you can, I recommend taking a screenshot of this. We're actually about to move forward into the action step for step 2 here. So if you can, take a little screenshot and feel free to look this over later on. Any questions on the psychology of gamification? In a moment here, we're going to actually get into how we can apply this. Let me check out the chat. Yes, Chris, social influence, interaction, social media, Facebook, Reddit, Discord, YouTube, all these different things. Big motivation core drive for a lot of people. All right, if there's no other questions, before we get into the action step, this is a recent example of someone actually implementing these 8 motivation core drives to make progress in their life. This is Spartan Warrior Santiago. Before he started to become more aware of these motivation core drives, he was 205 pounds and struggling with nutrition, training, and mindset. He could not be consistent with anything that he put his mind to. He was able to get started like a lot of people, but he was not able to stay consistent and keep going. He couldn't control his motivation and his consistency, and he wasn't aware of the bad habits holding him back when it comes to making progress in all areas of life. Plain and simple, he didn't truly know what motivation really was and what drove his motivation to accomplish and achieve more. And after implementing this, he was able to get to 181.5 pounds. This is no joke. A week ago, before he went on to Spain and Portugal for his cousin's wedding that he was preparing for over 8 months. And in that process, he's able to eliminate back pain, no longer has back pain. He has more clarity on what he needs to do on a daily basis to drive action and to stay motivated and to where to focus his motivation. He also has applied this to his everyday tasks at work, in his nutrition, and his training. And he was able to now have control of creating new habits, which is the hardest thing for a lot of people, is creating that new habit. You know, how do you start getting into training? How do you start getting into healthy eating? How do you start getting into improving your quality of life and your performance at your job, to set new goals? All these different things are driven by those motivation core drives that we spoke about over here. Now, action steps. How can I apply this newfound thing that that I've been talking about, right? How do you do it? Well, what I did over here is I gave a little bit of a chart, a visual chart that you can use. It's called Octalysis. It's a framework by the world's leading researcher on gamification. His name is Yukai Cho. And you can use this chart in a way to visually gravitate towards, again, the top half being the white hat motivation and the bottom half being the black hat. Remember, white hat is the things you have control of, the external things, sometimes the intrinsic things inside you. The black hat is the things that you can lose, that fear, that loss, that avoidance. Again, all of these things can drive motivation. So the action step, starting with action step 1 for you guys, is share in the chat which core drive motivates you the most when you work out at home or in the gym. Drop it in the chat. What motivates you the most when it comes to working out at home or in the gym? Which one of these 8 core drives that we went over? Chris says development and accomplishment. Damn right. So which one of these 8 core drives, Tiara?
Oh.
On the right here, epic meaning, accomplishment, empowerment, ownership, social influence, scarcity, unpredictability, or avoidance. Which one motivates you to show up to the gym or do a workout at home? Then I'm also going to share my answer as well. Empowerment, nice. Feeling empowered. Jasper, if you're with us, love to hear from you as well. So for me, I'm actually with Chris. I primarily work out. I primarily train to develop and accomplish some sort of skill set. It's always intentional, it's always strategic, but I want that feeling of progress, right? There's that feeling of progress that you have when you know that you showed up and you did your best, right? And that is one aspect of development accomplishment for me. Thank you, Jasper. Thank you. Something to think about here, man. Step 2, the psychology of gamification. Next action step, let's change the perspective a little bit. What motivates you to show up to work? Do your job. Is it white hat, the stuff at the top, or black hat, the stuff at the bottom? Drop it in the chat. What motivates you to show up to work, do your job? Is it development and accomplishment, like working out? Is it the unpredictability? Just don't know what you're going to experience at your job every day? I don't know. Is it epic meaning? Chris says development accomplishment. Nice. Yes, I agree. Could branch out to more. Same thing with Tiara as well. Accomplishment. Yes, there is. If this question doesn't like get you to really think about what people's motivation might be when they show up to work, this really can open up a whole new world to you, right? Because some people can do their job for loss and avoidance, right? They don't want to lose their home, right? They don't want to, be homeless, right? Maybe this is the only thing that's getting them by, So many people do jobs like that they don't love, and they just do that so that they can avoid, some type of something bad, right? Maybe they're doing a job because it's scarce. And they're like, hey, like I'm one of 50 people who have this position, right? Um, there's so many factors when it comes to what can motivate you to show up to work on the day to day. Like so many factors, right? But if you're aware of these things, that's the power of it. That's the power that you can leverage from this. Yes, I agree, Chris. Social influence can absolutely play a factor. A lot of people who are in like service-based positions, whether that's in the fitness space inside the gym, like the trainers, the coaches and stuff. It could be people who are in the dining industry, you know, and also too, you like you mentioned, like especially reinforcing with a good LinkedIn profile. Yep, yep. People like to relate with people and their work experience and things like that. So I think that's a great connection. I can tell that you're really starting to actually start to make these connections, man. Great work. Now, last action step is please share in the chat what motivated you the most to join this masterclass. Which of these 8 core drives? Epic meaning, accomplishment, empowerment, social influence? Which one? A little bit of a somewhat tricky question here. Kind of approach this from a lot of different angles. Chris, unpredictability and curiosity. That'll do it. And also epic meaning and calling. Nice, man. I think you're definitely getting it. It's sometimes not just one thing, right? But again, if that's clear in, hey, I'm motivated by this, this, and this, you now have a lot of power. Curiosity, nice. You got it, Tierra. What can I learn? Is this thing going to truly make positive change in my life? So many questions can be asked that can spark that curiosity, right? Now, that's step 2. Let's get a recap before we hit into the final step and wrap up this masterclass. Step 2 of the gamification psychology goes over that motivation core drive, those 8 core drives: epic meaning and calling, development and accomplishment, empowerment of creativity and feedback, ownership and possession, social influence relatedness, scarcity and impatience, unpredictability and curiosity, and loss and avoidance. All influence and motivate people to act. If you write down those 8 things, put it somewhere where you always see it, and you ask yourself, what is driving the motivation for me to do this thing? You will be equipped with the tools that you need to make better decisions, to take better action, to take more action, and to continuously use dopamine, which we learned in step 1, and leverage the power of that. And again, they're broken down into 2 types of hats: black hat and white hat. Again, black hat is loss of control. White hat is control and empowerment, basically affecting your behavior and emotions. And the application when it comes to gamification is basically leveraging these core drives to motivate its users, giving them purpose of their mission, basically having them accomplish and make progress in whatever they're doing, being creative, having ownership and attachment to physical or digital things, social interaction, which is a huge thing, urgency and anticipation, and so much more. But of course, the reward and that curiosity is also a big, big thing when it comes to trying new things and learning new things. Huge, huge, huge. Again, this is just an introduction to the psychology of gamification. And last but not least, now that you understand what's going on and influencing our bodies and now our minds, now you can actually start to put both of those things together to effectively apply some gamification mechanics and elements into your life. Maybe for some of you, this might be the thing that you've been waiting for. Now you're way more equipped to effectively apply it, because if you just start applying these gamification mechanics and elements without truly understanding what drives motivation as far as unconsciously inside our bodies and now consciously, you won't be able to effectively use it. Now, the difference between gamification mechanics and elements are really, really simple. They're not the same, but they're very similar. So plain and simple, mechanics are just the rules. It's the rules that essentially define the game and define your experience inside the game. For example, tic-tac-toe, one of the gamification mechanics in order to win the game is basically X's and O's. There's rules on where you can place these X's and O's and who wins the game and things like that. These are all mechanics, right? There are feedback, right? People take turns, right? That's one gamification mechanic. It's basically the gameplay of the game. And you could get way more complex with something like Monopoly. Everyone has to basically go on, the same path, right? And they have to pass go, and there's all these different things that affect how you play the game. So these are the rules. Now, gamification elements are the strategies in which I'm going to be getting into. Mechanics are primarily for designing games, it's creating the rules, right? And a lot of things in real life, we don't have control of the rules. Like, we don't have control of sometimes what we do at work, right? We don't create the rules essentially to, have your position, like basically perform at your position, I should say, right? We have roles, there's responsibilities, there's things that we have to operate in order to have, basically show up and be our best and do our best, right? But elements, however, these are these strategies that can really keep you engaged and motivated. In games, it's like having levels. It's having points, knowing that you're seeing your points go up, knowing that you're leveling up. These might be these special boosters or these power-ups that change how you play the game and also affect your strategy. It also can be competitive as well, like leaderboards and so much more. But basically, there are 5 gaming elements built into just about every single game. And you can apply these 5 gaming elements into anything that you want to accomplish and build motivation for and also stay motivated. One is having clear objectives. It's very, very important simply because it gives you a sense of purpose and direction. Essentially, if I didn't design this masterclass with having this 3-step process to understand gamification, you won't feel like you're heading in any direction, right? I mentioned in the very beginning, there's a 3-step process, which means we go from step 1, step 2 to step 3. We set objectives for the masterclass. Now that gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of direction. And it also allows you to track your progress as well. Again, this is built into a lot of role-playing games as far as completing something called quests, if you're familiar. It is having clear objectives as far as feedback mechanisms and visible progress, which is the next element, which kind of goes into user interface when it comes to gamification. It's a powerful motivator because it gives you visible feedback. So it's hard. Imagine playing a game like tic-tac-toe and you visibly couldn't write X and O, right? And you visibly couldn't understand whether or not you won the game or not. Imagine that, right? It's not really a game if you're just mentally kind of putting X and O like with your opponent, right? Like you have to visibly, and you get that feedback mechanism when you either write it down or click a button if you're playing tic-tac-toe virtually, right? Same thing goes for chess and a lot of other games as well, right? You get a visible feedback on your progress in the game. For a real life example is at work, right? You can get visible progress on a project, for example. There's visible progress when you look at your bank account, right? There's so many examples when it comes to having this element and how it's incorporated into everyday life. Then, of course, it all kind of goes into the rewards as well. Every action has a reaction. There's tangible rewards and intangible rewards. And you create a positive association with that award that motivates you to basically come back and take that action again and again and again. It is why we show up to work. It's why we keep playing the same game. There's some type of reward that gets you to come back and keep you motivated. Every game has rewards, right? Even if it says something as simple as just saying you won. The last two, variety and novelty and consistent challenge. Again, if you're doing the same thing, it could get boring, which is why a lot of people in the fitness and health world, they either give up over a certain amount of time because they're doing the same thing over and over again and they aren't receiving the rewards that they want. Or that reward becomes undesirable and they want a different reward. That's where the variety and novelty comes in. Every game has some sort of variety and novelty. You'll see that everywhere. Even a game that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, like chess, there's ways that people expand upon that 2D chess, speed chess, 3D chess. There's so many varieties of a game that is very, very complex, right? And that variety and novelty of playing a game like chess, you can approach it with so many different strategies and perspectives. Everything is basically that freedom of like changing your strategy when you approach something. Very, very big. And the last thing is consistent challenge. When things are too easy, they get boring. Right? Like if I said, hey, do one push-up every day for a year, you're gonna be like, one push-up? Come on. You might think, hey, that's way too easy. I can do like 20, 30, 40, 50, right? But to the person who struggles to do one push-up, that's challenging, right? Then once they do one push-up, they can do 2 push-ups, right? Then they could do 3, 4, 5, 20. That there's that consistent challenge. Same thing inside the gym. Same thing with your nutrition. There's this constant challenge that gets you to come back and to conquer that challenge. That's built into every single game. Some type of challenge to overcome to make that win or that reward worth it. And that's gamification mechanics and elements. Now, again, when you apply these mechanics and elements effectively, you can get transformative results. And this is an example. Everyone you see here on the right, including myself, has implemented gamification mechanics and elements into health, into fitness, to truly transform their mind and body and nutrition. And everyone you see here, including myself, we're unaware of the psychological effects of dopamine on motivation. We knew of it, right? We know there's things going on inside our body that we aren't aware of, right? But we didn't really truly know how it was affecting our motivation until we really started to understand dopamine and the physiological things that are kind of controlling things. Same thing with the conscious and the unconscious things, the things that we are aware of and unaware of psychologically, right? Big thing. This is a big, big shift for a lot of people when you are aware of the unconscious, the unaware. That too can drive tremendous progress and results. And lastly, we weren't really aware of the gamification mechanics to achieve health, growth, and basically accomplish any goal. In my story, in the very beginning of this masterclass, I went on that journey of trial and error and failure. I was very lucky to experience gamification at a young age when it comes to me just trying to focus on the reward of me getting that new video game for getting straight A's. Again, straight A's was like a challenge to me that I was able to overcome the first time I got straight A's. If I wasn't able to get straight A's, I probably would have gave up, right? If the challenge was too hard, I would have quit. But when I got that first set of straight A's, I did it again and again and again. And how I was able to add additional challenge to it was trying to do it with less effort. What if I didn't have to take notes and I could just memorize all the information? Little things like that, that variety and that novelty and that experience is what got me to do that every single year, every single marking period. But again, the result is transformative progress in any area of your life, physically, mentally, nutritionally. At Infinite, including myself, we've lost hundreds and hundreds of pounds of body fat. We gained hundreds of pounds total of muscle mass. And everyone here that you see is living a pain-free life of progress, growth, and success. This is the power of gamification. Last but not least here, let's take action with what we just learned about gamification elements right now by first thinking about gamification on social media. Facebook, for example, Twitter, YouTube. What gamification mechanic do these platforms use that you've seen? I'm going to pop in the chat. Boom. Ooh, that's a big one. Notifications. Curiosity and unpredictability. Chris, you're killing it, man. You get it. Big, big. And that's one of the first things. If you want to figure out how you can apply this, control your notifications. If you don't control it, the app will control you. And again, that's huge. Big. Like some people just really are not aware, right? But now you are. Now you are aware. But that's super, super big. Development, that's a big thing as well. Creating content is huge, huge, huge. Content creation is so big, right? Social media has fueled that tremendously. So yeah, there's a lot. Cool. That was great. Great action step. Feel free to also share your 2 cents, Tiara, as well. Would love to hear from you. Gamification mechanics and elements in social media, Twitter, Facebook. Something that is built into Facebook: likes, comments, shares. Those are gamification elements. And to connect that, it's social influence and relatedness. When you like something, when you share something, when you comment something, you're kind of showing them like, hey, I get to connect with you. I can relate to you, right? Big component of social media, which is why we have this action step to really connect things. Cool. Action step 2, gaming. So what gamification mechanic or element that you've seen in games that you've played? It can be literally anything. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, man. So example for this, again, in gaming, can literally be anything. Anything. So it could be points, right? Points on whether or not you are winning the game. It can be, well, it could be having a leaderboard. It can be having a scoreboard. It can be so many things. Rewards and loot. Nice. Nice. That's big in the RPG world, which I'm excited to do a masterclass on the RPG gamification, really diving into what makes RPGs so appealing and how that connects to a lot of our real life lifestyle as well. Nice. Last action step, something to think about, is please share your favorite gamification mechanic or element. This can be on social media, it could be in a game, it could be at work. Please share what really gets you excited, like what really gets you motivated based on all those 8 core drives when you see this mechanic. Drop it in the chat. Creativity. Nice, Chris. Yeah, if you've been playing Zelda, which got the Master Sword back there, they leverage that motivation core drive to the fullest extent. Right? The creative things that people were able to do really gets people to spend dozens and dozens of hours in that game, right? And it's brilliant, brilliant design, especially coming from someone who played the OG Zelda games when it was like 16-bit, no color on the Game Boy, you know, Link to the Past and all these old Zelda games. It's like it's evolved so much, but yeah, that's huge. Creativity, empowerment, so big. Nice. Please think about this as you experience things on the day-to-day. Think about what mechanics that Facebook is using. Think about what mechanics the games that you're playing are using. Think about the mechanics that you see at work that are being at play. Again, the more aware that you are, the more control that you have over your motivation. So quick recap on the last and final step here is gamification mechanics and elements such as challenges, rewards, and feedback are essential for creating an engaging and motivating experience. Think of the physiology and the psychology aspect being the kind of like a spectrum, where it's like the physiology stuff are like the unaware aspects that are controlling it, and then the mechanics and the feedback are like the aware. So it's the application of the motivation core drives, as well as dopamine and things like that. Again, clear objectives and visible progress, as well as variety, novelty, and consistent challenges are all gamification elements. For example, tracking your progress, getting that sense of purpose and direction and accomplishment, basically making your experience enjoyable by overcoming challenges and feeling that sense of improvement to basically fuel that motivation constantly to keep taking action, to go back again and again and again. That's how you create infinite motivation. When you include all the things that we spoke about today. Now, again, a recap on those first 3 steps. In the beginning, we talked about dopamine and the effects that dopamine has unconsciously in our physiology when it comes to motivation, pleasure, and all these things that fuel everything that we do when it comes to generating motivation and doing repetitive actions for the reward. Remember, dopamine is the reward. There's a sense of reward with every action we take. I said, I think a couple times now in this masterclass, is every action has a reaction. That reaction is quite often the reward from a dopamine standpoint, I should say. Next, we talked about step 2, which is going over the 8 core drives. Again, I hope you guys wrote that down, took a screenshot. But if you missed it, here they are again. Again, they're broken down into white hat and black hat. Control, loss of control. Black hat is loss of control. White hat is having control. And they are epic meaning and calling, development and accomplishment, empowerment of creativity and feedback, ownership and possession, social influence, relatedness, scarcity and impatience, unpredictability and curiosity, and loss and avoidance. Last but not least, how you implement these core drives and how you influence dopamine is driven by these game-like elements and mechanics like clear objectives, visible progress, rewards for your effort, variety, novelty, as well as consistent challenges to keep you engaged and wanting more and more and more. So I'm curious, what was your biggest takeaway from this masterclass, going over the physiology, the psychology, and the gaming mechanics so that you can create more clarity, energy, productivity, and confidence in every action that you take? What was your biggest takeaway? Drop it in the chat. Biggest takeaway from the masterclass. Nice, Chris. Yeah, I agree. Framework. 100%. That's that clarity component, right? If you're aware of the unaware and you have a framework to kind of make that conscious, you have full control over a lot more things. Tierra, it's interesting. I see Olia as your name, but I know it's you, Tierra. Need good motivation. Yeah, I agree. We got a book recommendation, 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Nice. Actually, write that down. Thanks for the knowledge drop, Chris. Knowledge is power only if you use it. Thanks for sharing, guys. Big takeaway. So now, before I let you go, using gamification to engineer, design, and optimize around the nature of motivation to accomplish your short-term and long-term goals in your health, your fitness, your training, your nutrition, your mindset is difficult. I spent well over a decade doing that professionally, constantly learning new knowledge, learning new things, and helping people. And I remember when I was a kid just trying to figure it out. And I struggled and it was hard. And I spent many years and lost a lot of time, failing before I succeeded. That is truly what mastery is, right? Is going on that lifelong journey of going through that ups and downs to expand your mind, expand your competence. So if you made it this far into the masterclass, I have a very special opportunity for you. If you want to dive deeper into what I spoke today about the physiology, the psychology, and the gaming mechanics to basically improve your life, expand your life in the health and fitness and nutrition world, I do something called a battle strategy call, where we do an audit on where you are currently, what your past experience and actions were, your future goals, as well as the challenges that are preventing you from accomplishing your goals when it comes to motivation and progress. Basically, in this battle strategy call, we work together, we sit on a Zoom call, and we break things down. We pinpoint some of these hidden obstacles that you might be unaware of, kind of like what we talked about inside this masterclass, and we create a game plan for success. We build the bridge from where you are now to where you want to be. And we then build solutions and we build a strategy so that you can be equipped with everything that you need to be successful, to move forward, so that you can get that core drive of development and accomplishment in your health, your fitness, and nutrition. And this is something that is free for everyone that has attended this masterclass. So I'm going to be actually dropping a link right now in the chat. First come, first serve when it comes to scheduling a call with me one-on-one. I'm going to drop that in the chat if anybody wants to take action and take more action with what we covered today in the masterclass. Boom. Check out the chat. Would love to support you in your health and fitness journey through the fitness game, to really leverage the power of gamification to drive motivation infinitely to achieve your goals. But I'm going to open up Q&A here. Feel free to drop your questions. I'm going to also put on some more John Oath. In the meantime, if this ad would get out the way. Feel free to drop your questions, share your thoughts, share some feedback on your experience. Shout out to Final Fans. Chris. You knew. Gray Fox. My man. MGS. MGS. I was hyped over that announcement for the remake for Snake Eater. So hyped. Thank you, Julia. Oh, thank you guys. This is the first of many. I wasn't really sure how long this one was gonna go, to be honest. But I wanted to deliver as much value as I possibly can about gamification, because it's changed my life and it's changed the life of so many people that I've served and supported. And again, it's a very complex subject that I hope you guys took a lot away from actionable steps that you can take starting right now to truly have better control of your motivation so you can accomplish whatever you want. So if I could get back to my presentation, here we go. So yeah, thank you for attending this masterclass on infinite motivation, gamification, where I hope you are now equipped with the tools, the framework, and the self-awareness of what's going on unconsciously and consciously that you now can leverage to generate more energy, clarity, productivity, confidence, and so much more in your life. I'm looking forward to doing another masterclass soon. Stay tuned for that, where we'll dive deeper into a lot of gamification in a lot of aspects of life, like business, gaming, nutrition, training, and so much more. I'm excited to educate and share as much knowledge as I can about gamification, because it's truly something that is either not fully known or known enough about. Most people don't know enough about it to truly leverage the power of it, like I've been able to do in my life as well as at Infinite. So thank you, and looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care.